With the version 4.3 livestream done, we got to see some awesome animations in combat with an increasingly epic story in playing Arcadia so far. We also got to see a fan favorite new character, Mortenax Blade, which I will add is probably my favorite male character in Star Rail. He looks awesome, he looks like he might murder you, and yeah, let's see if he's worth pulling for your account. There are also insane rerun options, namely Yaoguang, Cyrene, Phainon, and even a surprising teaser of the future Fate Stay Night collab Part 2 characters. Specifically, we got the fan favorite TOHSAKA RIN. Oh boy, how are we gonna pull that? There are also the new 3-stage MOC, Pure Fiction and Apocalyptic Shadow, that might really affect who you want to pull right now. We got a lot to cover, so buckle up. We'll start with a quick summary on the first limited banner that we will see in this coming version, which will feature Mortenax Blade. Mortenax Blade is a fire element nihility character that plays the role of a supportive damage dealer that can also be one of the main damage dealers. He holds enough damage output to be a strong main DPS in the team and still has incredible team-wide damage increase effects with the zone of his ultimate. That way he can support the team while also pulling his own weight in terms of damage output. He has a unique ability that allows for constant debuff application for your whole team within his ultimate's zone. This means one of his best ally will be with Acheron, where she'll rack up her ult points exceptionally fast with Blade's help. Another way he'd shine will be with someone like Asheville, where both Blade and Asheville will be treated as dual damage dealers of the team, supporting each other with buffs and dealing damage on both ends, especially since Mortenax Blade has follow-up attacks too. With that said, let's jump into his kit to understand more. To start with Blade's ultimate, upon usage, he'll consume some of his own HP and enter an enhanced state and deploy a zone. The zone has an effect that changes the whole map with a lot of blades, which looks really cool. This is the true infinite blade works. This zone has a few effects based on his talent. The first effect allows all enemies to receive increased damage, probably with more additional effects too, and that ultimately increases damage output for your whole team. Secondly, Blade's talent allows him to hold up to 9 charges. He gains 1 charge whenever an ally within his zone attacks an enemy. Not only that, your allies will also apply a debuff that likely increases damage dealt whenever they attack within this zone. It's this exact effect that allows Acheron to gain a bunch more ult points, since every attack from an ally within this Blade zone can now inflict a debuff. Upon reaching max charges, Blade will unleash his enhanced skill as a follow-up attack, dealing great damage and regenerating extra energy. On top of that, within this ultimate's enhanced state, Blade has an enhanced skill and ultimate. His enhanced skill simply deals high damage to enemies, nothing too crazy, and his enhanced ult is also similar, although this hit will be Blade's highest damage move, turning himself into whole dark mode, controlling hundreds of blades and attacking enemies with massive damage. It looks incredible. With all that said, Mortenax Blade seems to be a very direct character. His mechanics are not out of the ordinary, where his gameplay loop will involve getting his first ultimate to deploy the zone, get the enhanced effects, having your whole team deal damage within this zone for maximum damage increase, all while helping your team inflict debuffs and dealing damage from his own kit. He'll then repeat the whole process again once his ult zone duration ends, and that'll be Mortenax Blade's main engine. As mentioned, this makes his best team obvious. Someone like Acheron that requires high number of debuff infliction will be ideal with Blade. Blade's damage increase effects also helps out Acheron massively. And not to mention, Blade being a nihility path character will perfectly suit Acheron's team. You'll likely be seeing the best team of Blade, featuring Blade, Acheron, Tribi/Cypher, or any general buffers, plus a constant attacking healer like Hyacinth. Remember, the more you can attack with this team within the zone, the more debuffs you inflict, the more ult points that is for Acheron. This team, as shown in the livestream, has a lot of attack instances, maximizing the debuff landed via Blade's zone, and Acheron would just get a lot of benefits from that. Alternatively though, Blade has enough damage output to also be the dual damage dealer for an Asheville team as well. Blade has follow-up attack with his charge mechanic, which means Asheville does aid him decently for damage increase, and Blade will reciprocate with his fair share of buffs and debuffs that also maximizes Asheville's damage. Blade can likely also take the role of a generally useful character when paired with someone like Welt as well, to just maximize the damage increase and defense reduction that these two characters have. You might even consider this Blade with the HP change mechanic to even fit him in a Castrus team even, since Mortenax Blade does also consume HP with his kit. In any case, more on what he can do in different teams in the videos I'll be posting next week. Stay tuned for that early access showcase. Drop a sub for that as well if you like. I got a lot of fun ideas in mind. In any case, to answer the question of should you be pulling for Mortenax Blade, this one's interesting because there are a load of factors that you may want to consider. First of all, the one that matters the most, which would actually be the announcement of Fate Collab Part 2. This wasn't promised from before, I don't think, so it definitely just popped out of nowhere for me. We will be able to pull TOHSAKA RIN or Gilgamesh, although you can technically claim Gilgamesh for free. The main point being though, this will all happen in versions soon after Blade probably. I know for a fact that you like Rin, and some may genuinely just want to full commit, say for that E6 S5 Rin or Gilgamesh, but you know what, that is definitely valid. I can't stop it if you're like a hardcore Fate fan like that. So to pretty much like give a quick conclusion, if you're all for for the collab characters, well, skip the Blade and save everything for the collab stuff, right? But to consider other factors, mainly focusing just on the pull value of Blade as a character, I think Mortenax Blade is a very simple case of a strong character, but not a must pull for pure meta purposes. If you want the strongest team in the game only, the Elation Squad or the Perfect Remembrance team are the options you want to target. Mortenax Blade is more like a character that makes some of the older options insanely stronger, like Akaran, while being able to be generally used in a variety of teams. Rumor has it that even a base E0S1 Akaran can perform at a near top tier level with Blade's incredibly synergistical kit with her. But as usual though, do wait for the actual showcases for anything concrete. The final factor that you can consider will definitely be the need of a third team for all the mainstream endgame modes that can give you more stellar jades if you beat the 3-stage endgame modes. Players who only have 2 teams so far can definitely pull a Blade to instantly revive, say, your unused Akaran team. That will do more than sufficient to serve as your third reliable team. With all that said, I recommend players who love Akaran to pull at least 1 copy of Blade. I recommend players who would like to revive their unused Akaran team as the third team for endgame to also pull 1 copy. I also recommend players who would rather save for the reruns perhaps, or save crazily for the huge Rin banner in the future, to save through Blade instead. You won't die without him. Finally though, I recommend pure meta chasers to skip Blade. There are obvious main push teams usually per version. Blade doesn't seem like he's the one that sets the tone of the whole meta right now, at least on paper. Remember though, check out the showcases first, which I'll be posting next week for more data, and decide on your personal best decision. The best choice is to pull for whoever you love. With the single new character of the next version out the way, let's now look at the crazy lineup of free runs. This is where it actually gets really tough, because in phase 1 alongside Blade, we do get a Yaoguang rerun. This is an awesome time to revisit Yaoguang's value, because before, there are doubts on Yaoguang where she was released quite early in version 4, and based on experience and pattern, early characters of the version may not end up being the strongest option near the end of the versions, as newer characters and stronger characters get released. But I personally think we've seen Yaoguang shine enough to know that she isn't going to be that case where she'll be completely obsolete by version N. Her value is generally useful for any Elation teams, that I don't think you won't prefer a Yaoguang, especially if you're running any full Elation setup. Currently, the 3 best Elation setups are the Evanescent Elation team, Cyril Vesp team, or even a Spark C main DPS team, all of which needs Yaoguang to get to their highest potential. I recommend prioritizing pulling Yaoguang if you are planning to play the Elation playstyle at all. If you missed her before and you got your hands on a few Elation characters, Yaoguang is an immediate improvement for you, and she'll fit into that best Elation squad instantly. You won't be regretting getting a Yaoguang. To move on to phase 2 of the reruns though, we also see some powerhouses, namely Cyrene and Phainon. To start with Cyrene, this one's honestly pretty straightforward. You only care to pull for Cyrene if you're planning to play the best versions of most of the Chrysos Air teams. Specifically, the strongest one would feature Castris, Cyrene, Evernight, and Hyacinth, which actually is one of, if not the strongest team of the whole game right now, especially if you consider Eidolons. However though, do understand that Cyrene requires really good speed at E0 to really function well. It's not exactly the easiest character to fully utilize. However though, if you are favorites to the meta, pulling for E2 Cyrene will drastically improve your Chrysos Air teams, and it's quite a considerable option to go for. The only downside is that she's of an older archetype, and the fact is that she really specifies that she buffs each Chrysos Air uniquely, meaning there are limitations to her versatility and future value, where she won't be much usable outside of Chrysos Air teams. We simply don't know if they can somehow release stronger Chrysos Air in the future, or if someone would be released that would just be able to be benefited by Cyrene fully. But in any case, you'll mostly still expect her to be locked into a currently available Chrysos Air team, which is still largely strong alongside even the Elation teams right now. I'll be very honest, if we have full Eidolons on both ends, I don't know which team is stronger, but I know for a fact they're still both top tier. I actually recommend going for E2 Cyrene if you want to push the ceiling of the Remembrance or Chrysos Air teams, especially for Castris teams. Otherwise though, saving through could be a good idea, unless you just really love Cyrene, which I would understand fully. She's a charming character. You won't regret her power levels though if you have her ideal setup and good builds, at least for now. To move on to Phainon, he's still a strong damage dealer, although he is limited by his own kit a little bit. Basically, Phainon's ult will take quite some action values, where they are going to be characters that can clear faster than him most of the time. He will also be in a solo mode in his ultimate, where you don't really have allies that can heal him and whatnot. He does have stuff that heals him, but there will be some survival stress with him. But he still remains as one of the strongest damage output in the game if you have him built well. His meter attacks hit like a truck, so he's still more than viable right now. I wouldn't go for him though, especially considering I already have multiple Elation squads plus a reliable Remembrance Path 3rd team. So generally, if you already have enough teams, you're not forced to go for another main damage dealer, especially an older one, unless if you love him. I do recommend his E2 if you'd like to push his ceiling with mid-tier budget. Still though, is he the strongest damage dealer? Nope, but he sure is still strong at least. I would prioritize Phainon above previous options, of course unless if I main him or stand him hard. Finally, let's just quickly go through the future Fate Part 2 collab, which will feature TOHSAKA RIN that requires pulling and Gilgamesh that can be claimed for free, but you might want his Lyco. Interestingly, Rin is erudition and of the quantum element, while Gilgamesh is lightning and destruction. Both aren't exactly reminding me of elation related characters, right? So they might be similar in style with the Saber and the Archer that got released, where they may utilize existing mechanics, but usually it's not going to be the newest main push one. Like how Saber Archer wasn't exactly remembrance related, Rin and Gilgamesh is likely not going to be elation related too. I mean, obviously, understandable by their paths. In any case, all of that are just speculations, but the main point will actually be the timeline. They stated that you can claim either Gilgamesh or Archer from the start of the collab till the end of version 4.6, so they're actually going to come quite quickly from now. It'll probably be within like 2 or 3 versions, right? I think this is the highest priority, especially if you're a hardcore Fate fan. That means you could think about skipping everything and starting that E6 budget for both of these limited collab characters. You can always pull a Mortenax Blade again in a rerun in the future, but you may or may not see a rerun of Rin again if she leaves and if contract stuff would come in. So yep, who would you be pulling for? And what would be your decision? It's one of the hardest ones, I'm not gonna lie, and I might be signing up for robbing people to get gacha funds, but hey, that's just me. Jokes aside though, I think the best option is still to just wait for the next live stream before you slam that pull button on Blade. Of course, unless you love him, that's what I'll be personally doing. We'll wait for more info and see who's the best thing to pull, or you know, just go for it if you just like the character. Hope you guys enjoyed this one though, and take care.